Hi everybody, welcome back to the Insights Insider. My name is Emra. I'm a professional with more than 20 years of research and consumer insights experience. Today I'm going to be taking you through the benefits and the disadvantages of market research. Because as we all know, you cannot have a rose without thorns. The first really big advantage is that insights help you make better informed decisions. Now they do this via allowing you to better understand the needs, the preferences, the wants of people that are to be the target or the purchaser or the loyal user of the product. So by having this, what you create is a platform of knowledge that gives you a foresight into the performance of the product and gives you an idea of what the potential ups and downs are going to be so you can continue to mitigate those across time. If you don't rely on this, you're fundamentally relying only on your experience, your knowledge, which is absolutely fair and takes a lot of time to acquire. I respect that a lot. However, having this additional piece of information that's going to take you a step further is going to be an investment that is likely to pay off at the end. The second big benefit is that it allows you to look at the trends in the market and to understand how your consumer is evolving. And from there, adapt your strategy to meet them halfway. This is absolutely critical as evolution is an absolute. It will happen and people will move on. They will want new things, they will want different things. For you to be able to catch up to that, the only way really is to understand and view from their perspective how this is happening. The market itself on a macro level also creates tensions, changes that you need to adapt to. And these are also picked up via looking into the different sources of information that can be provided by research. In all, it's a critical tool to be able to view your way ahead and understand where you need to pivot and change. It also creates a platform where businesses can look at new opportunities, different opportunities beyond just improving what is in their portfolio. So to understand those white spaces and to potentially action them, as you might actually have economies of scale to be able to reach out to something that you never really thought about and make more profit. In line with profits, at times, some of our products are not going to be as productive or effective as they once were. This knowledge also allows you to be able to refocus the business into directions that create more wealth, more prosperity for not just the company, but also the people that work for it and create more value for those that need it. The third benefit is that it allows you to have a more satisfied customer base by meeting more of their needs, wants, and desires. It also allows you to see the strengths and weaknesses of your portfolio of the individual product and to be able to strategize on ways to negate that, reduce that risk, reduce that element of surprise that might be coming up, or to capture a trend that allows you to get ahead even further of potentially your competition. It also allows you to understand the strengths and weaknesses of your service, your product, or your operations, and give you time to adapt and strategize against improving all of those to be able to serve your customer base a lot better, which by line means to have some sort of foresight that allows you to build quicker, better, faster. And that one really is worth it. Research also allows you to track how well your marketing campaigns are doing. and basically keep a pulse on your attention, interest, desire, and whether you are able to actually create action in the market. Now, without having attention, interest, desire, and action, a product really isn't going to sell. What this also allows you to do is to create benchmarks. Now, benchmarks are very, very important because it allows you to see if you're going better or not as good as you had been going before. So to build those for a business is absolutely critical, and we can talk a little bit about those in a future episode. But in measuring your awareness, the interest, the desire, and the action, it's looking at the depth of how you got to your sales and eventually your profit. One of the more common elements that we hear about for a benefit of market research is that it creates a competitive advantage. Yes, absolutely it can. The tricky bit is getting that information as early as possible, which means investing in research that's going to give you this foresight as to how things are going to evolve. Can it? Yes. Will it? Yes. However, you need to have practitioners that are able to extract this value from data to be able to get you, or to be able to get the ball to the spot that you are running to. So it's a big one, and that's why I left it at number 5. Last one, and probably the most important, and that's why it's the last one, is that it helps you reduce risk. It reduces uncertainty. It creates a layer of knowledge that allows you to at least have a shield as you're going into any endeavor. Now, it's the job of every executive to take a risk, but however much that executive can reduce that risk, the more benefit that they will have at the end. This is the biggest advantage of market research. It allows you to see ahead. Doesn't tell the future, but it gives you a view, at least through a scope, where you're able to see a portion of what could be coming up, and based on that, reduce your risk. Well, that's the good news. So those are the benefits. Now let's take a little step to the side and look at what the drawbacks or disadvantages can be of doing research. Let's try to dissect this a little bit in terms of it's expensive and time consuming. Let's talk about expensive first. Yes, it's a cost. Now, I mentioned in a previous video that it is a cost, yet it could be a very, very important investment. So I'm going to take that aside and basically allow you to deal with that on your own. The time consumption part is absolutely true. Now, the reality is it takes time for good things to happen, okay? So we can't just click fingers and make things happen, unfortunately, but that's the reality of it. So the time that it takes to acquire this data, if it is beyond a scope of when you need to action it, it doesn't make sense. Very simple, flat out. However, it's just like any other thing, and I apologize to the vegans, vegetarians out there, but if you want to make a good rib and smoke a wonderful brisket, then that's going to take time. You can't rush it. It's going to be 8 hours, it's going to be 12 hours, but the result at the end is what you're looking for. And I would urge you to think about it from that perspective. It's the result at the end that is going to help you satiate whatever need you had. So the time consumption element is a must. It will be there, but some things are worth waiting for. The other aspect is that you can always reduce that time consumption. How we do that is working through a methodology, revising a methodology, so how we actually acquire the information, or re-looking at, is that really the fundamental question we're trying to answer? And is it a little bit, if we go a little bit deeper, can we get an answer through a different way? That can help you significantly reduce time. So think about it from the element of, this is my big question, but how many questions actually lead to that is a critical question that's going to potentially benefit you from a huge waste of time as well. And it's less expensive. So it's something that you need to think about, but I would urge you to think about your objective. So next on our list is incomplete or inaccurate data. And this, like I mentioned, can be for many, many different reasons. It could be a sampling bias. It could be that your researcher hasn't taken the right methodology, or it can be because you haven't been able to fund enough to get the larger scope that you need. So there's many, many variables as to why this can be the case. And it kind of goes back to, the mitigation at least, goes back to the same construct as time. So framing that question well, framing that question right is absolutely critical. Having a great line of communication with the person that's actually going to be putting this together for you or fielding it for you is critically important. Having that person understand your exact need is critically important. You put all of those things together, that should reduce your sample bias, it should give you a better methodology, it could give you a better timing, it could give you a less expensive project, but equal even more value when it comes to the data that you're getting. Regardless, some data is always going to be missing. You're always going to have a question that's, I wish I knew that bit. This takes planning and it takes time, but the shorter the question, the more important our ability to get that data quickly. So think about breaking things up, and as things are broken up, there's less for you to lose out on, and there's less things that are going to go wrong. Now the next one is about how you're able to get a comprehensive view of your audience. It can be very, very difficult to capture the full audience that you actually want to understand. Sampling done well is a very, very good way of trying to extract that information. So if a study is sampled well, randomly, or pointed at the correct target, that's an incredibly efficient way of reducing that risk. The other one is that you're just basically not able to reach some segments of society. My favorite ones are doctors, for instance, can be difficult to reach, or highly paid executives can be difficult to reach. So to be able to get to those, you need to think about an approach that's going to be more palatable for them. Now, regardless of all of that, you're going to be unable to sometimes meet the exact demand that you have. That is certainly a drawback. However, with working in sort of specialty agencies or people that have a snowball where they're able to reach people that are more difficult to get, that's really a good way to reduce that inefficiency. So there's many, many techniques in trying to reduce this, but the most important thing is the communication that you have with your researcher, your ability to actually, let's say, give over or inspire that person to understand the question that you have in your head to be able to go out and get the right answers. There is no such thing as a wrong study. There is usually a wrong question. The next disadvantage we're going to talk about is that people may not be giving you the complete truth, or maybe semblances of it, or holding back on their answers. This is an absolutely critical risk. For sure, difficult, but there are mitigation factors around that. In general, it tends to swing around how sensitive a topic is. So if you're looking into hygiene relative to hamburger preferences, you're likely to get very, very different answers. Hygiene tends to be one of those topics that creates a bit more sensitivity. Now, the more sensitive a topic is, the less direct the questions should be. What does that mean? We need to think about asking more along the lines of the how and where and why, as opposed to the what. This allows us more to derive answers as opposed to trying to get them specifically and directly. Like I said, the more sensitive, the harder it is to get direct answers. So it becomes up to your researcher to be able to craft questions that allow a more in-depth or probing approach to extract the actual insight you want. Qualitative is very, very good for this. It allows kind of a closed space. It allows the moderator to be able to ask questions that are more targeted towards a roundabout as opposed to the direct belly button of the question. So that's something I definitely urge you to look into. That should help reduce some of that sensitivity. But regardless, there's always going to be things like cultural sensitivities where there can be potentially taboo topics or difficult topics to approach, and you need to think about how to get around those. So the less direct the question, the better it is, and the more truthful the answer you will get. The penultimate is that research can stifle creativity and it can reduce innovation. That can be absolutely true depending on how high a pedestal you put data. Now, research has its place. It is not a be-all and end-all. And if it's treated that way, that's usually a negative. So it needs to be a piece of the puzzle that helps one unfold a problem. Again, it should not be the singular answer. And if used correctly, research can very easily inspire, it can engage, and it can create avenues of thought that weren't there previously. So please try to use it in a way that breeds positivity, creativity, and acts as an inspiration to how you want to move forward. For the last one, we are talking about researchers misinterpreting or misunderstanding results. Has it happened to me? Yes. Am I proud of it? Not necessarily, but at the end of the day, it is something that can happen. Now here, the onus is, it looks like, is on the researcher, but the onus is very much on two parties communicating very, very well. Now, what does that mean? It means that if the researcher doesn't understand exactly what you're on about, you will get a misinterpretation. You will get lousy results. You will get things that don't make sense because they've prepped for something that you haven't necessarily briefed on. So to have a one-to-one, and I can only put it that way, that allows you to essentially pour your heart and to take the hat off and give that as a problem to the researcher is very, very important. If you don't do that, they will fail. Now, I'm not saying all researchers are absolutely unbiased or they're able to understand everything. This takes time and it's a matter of experience. But the more one matures in the role, the better the understanding of the problem will be, and hence the quicker will come the solution. So it's a tough one, but it is a two-way street, and I hope that you'll take the time to be able to make sure that you're understanding one another so as you can get the optimum benefit out of the research that you're conducting. Well, that is my list of 6 benefits and 6 drawbacks. I hope I've been able to shed a bit of light and maybe even some color into your thinking. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them below, and I'm hoping that I can see you the next time. Have a great day, everybody, and please be curious.